Welcome back, everybody. It's good to see y'all's faces, and it's good to have the wingnut in the upper left-hand corner here on my screen. We missed you last week, but, it was a good week in music.
Yes,
I have a question that has been driving me this week. Listening to this album of the week, when do we start to see the real iconic figures in jazz, and how long before they're classic enough that we look at them as a jazz giant like we would Coltrane, Davis, or even Ron Carter? We're in 2001, y'all, and we're listening to some really great music. So how many years before we recognize the greatness of these musicians? With that being said, let's get into this. Cue the music. Doodle-doo.
Oh, it's so good to be back. As much as I enjoy vacation, I like my routine. So it's good to be starting to get back in the routine. I missed the episode last week, and I got to tell you, I'm jealous. That album that you talked about last week. Oh man, what a great album.
I think I mentioned it once or twice that you're a huge fan. Probably number one trumpet player that you would follow is Wynton. So to be discussing an album that had Wynton on it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Also reliving, for me, number 83, which was Black Codes from the Underground.
Yes.
It took me back to our early days when we first started recording. So, yeah.
Yeah.
You missed it, but you didn't. Hopefully you got your ears on that album while you were out on the great wide ocean.
The rumor that I heard was that you barely got a word in edgewise, and somebody talked your ear off about the album.
About the history, about the album, about Art Blakey. I mean, It was like a drummer was talking about a drummer.
Imagine that.
Come on. Where are you guys coming from? Yeah.
He surprised me with a couple of albums that he'd listened to. He'd also surprised me with a couple of tracks and such that he had been listening to. So it was a great one.
He really dug in, didn't he? He covered my slack. That's what we got him on the episodes for, right? Cover our slack.
That's not likely, but our listeners will realize after they do put this in their ears.
Yeah.
And that'll be coming out soon. So this week we do cover the Chicago Underground Quartet. The album is of the same name, Chicago Underground Quartet. It came out on Thrill Jockey in the year 2001. It featured Rob Mazurek, sorry about that, Jeff Parker on guitar, Noel Cuppersmith on bass, Chad Taylor on percussion and vibraphone. 9 tracks long, 42 minutes listed, and it's a free jazz album, as it says on Wikipedia. So I think it was more experimental music to me than free jazz or even avant-garde jazz. So that's the album that we've looked at and listened to. I'm curious beyond all get out for what y'all thought about the album and to see how much it does or does not align with my thoughts on this album.
Well, I hope you're not disappointed with my score, but
I have a sneaky suspicion, but I'm looking at Dad. Sometimes he surprises us.
I know.
Sometimes.
I don't think you'll be surprised tonight.
Okay.
So why don't you let's get into some clips so that our listeners have a chance to hear at least a couple of minutes of the Chicago Underground Quartet if they haven't heard them yet.
Absolutely.
And the title of the album is
The
Chicago Underground Quartet.
Yep.
It's underground music.
So my clip, song number 6, is called Total Recovery. And start me right at about 30 seconds and play me about a minute of the clip.
All right. went a little long so I could hear him play a little bit more on the cornet.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. The reason that I picked the clip is, first of all, I like the way that it continues to build on a theme. When the song first starts off, all you get is the head, and then the bass comes in, and then the percussion comes in, and then finally he's playing on the trumpet. It builds intensity without pushing you over the edge. Let's put it that way. The other reason I picked it, and I wrote this in my notes, I don't know why, I can't explain it, but the sound reminds me of a Rush tune. I don't know which one it is. I just get that Rush progressive rock vibe on this tune. My other pick would have been a song with vibraphones in it, because I'm a huge fan of jazz vibraphones, but there was no vibes per se in this track. But I like the clip. I like how it builds in intensity, but it doesn't go crazy and push you over the edge.
What hit me most about this song and so many others is currently the current trend in music is looping. Play something, hit record, then loop it over and over, and then play something on top of it and loop that one in, then play something else. And to hear the looping in the synth, in that case, the electronics, the programmed electronics, it's approachable. And I think in my mind, I could probably build a track like that.
Mm-hmm.
Set some chords in motion, hit record on the piano, record those chords over and over and over again, and then play over it. That approachability to me is, I could do this. Enough electronics and enough time, you could build your own track. And that's what I loved about this particular one. But like you said, it builds. There's a moment in the song when it really gets to the tension and really gets to the release.
Yep.
Dad, what song, or did you have comments on that? I'm sorry.
That track would have been my second choice, but not at the beginning. I would have gone to 215 and listened to it from there. It's like what Matt said. It's building up and building on to what was previous, and so it's kind of a carryover. So that would have been my second choice. But my first choice was 3 in the morning, starting at 4:15.
Not 4:15 in the morning, starting at 3.
3.
3 in the morning, starting at 4:15.
Start at 4:15.
I bet you can make that happen.
Yeah, let's try it. Okay, here's part of the reason I chose that. And, I always come off the wall kind of indirectly when I have comments like this. But lately, I've been waking up in the middle of the night. That is anywhere from 2 o'clock until 5:30. So this song resonated with me. It's like I'm in mid-sleep, and the musicians are playing music for me in my mid-sleeping time. So I'm not in a deep sleep, I'm not awake, but I'm just caught in the middle somewhere. And that's what this music reminded me of. I'm not I'm not sleeping well, but I'm not ready to get up. The blankets are warm,
Yeah.
and it feels cold out away from the blankets, and I'm just going to stay there. I'm just going to stay there. I'm going to stay there with this track and enjoy it as long as I can. And that's what, for me, that's what this track represents. That's kind of what this album represents. Now, I want to say more about that later, but that's where I am with this track. Three in the morning.
yeah. You can really get behind that, can't you?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you picked a track with vibes in it, because I'm a sucker for vibes. Ever since we covered Gary Burton, I don't know. Anytime a jazz song has vibes in it, I'm all in for it. So
So I should say as well, I chose it because of the musicianship, obviously, and I say this often. It represents what this track really, the music this track represents. Okay, so there's that I'll add.
Yeah.
Well, and you can really hear the awareness of the musicians, how they're playing off each other. You know, you don't have one superstar that's got to overpower, and you pretty much can't overpower the vibes, otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear them. So the awareness of the musicians has to be spot on right there. Anyways, and I found that the whole album too. The awareness was really, really good between the musicians.
Well, with Noel on the bass playing very similar lines as Rob on trumpet, and then the vibes chiming in with it, they all three had to play together to make that particular track work so well. Mm-hmm. That's what I appreciated about it. So
good.
The song that I wanted to hear takes us about 12 hours later, or 12 hours earlier, to 4 in the evening. And I want to start at the beginning. This really became my first pick because of my question that started the show. Something I've been wrestling with all week listening to the album. Really and truly, the beginning, the Tunnel Chrome, was the song that I had been all week long. I had determined that was going to be my song of choice. But I was wrestling with this question. So I want to play the beginning, the first minute of 4 in the evening, and then I'll get into why. Minute to get into that. When that track came on originally, I thought I had made a mistake and selected only a song off of the album, and I shifted to a Miles Davis album. I grabbed my phone and immediately checked to see what I was listening to, and that's what made me stop and question. How will you know when you have a jazz great who's going to lead forward musicians? The release of the album Burn from Roy Hargrove has been out this week. Another album, his live at KNKX Studios, came out. And so much behind us, but it sounds like Miles. And unfortunately, I keep going back to jazz greats from 58, 59. Those are the days. And so I kind of started to think, if that's Miles, wow. So nobody stops and asks, who's played with Rob? Nobody asks, who's played with Kamasi? Nobody's talking about these names. And so when what decade do these become classics and we go, oh yeah, that guy played with Rob on Chicago Underground Quartet. That's what hit me about the song. I love the song, but it made me start to wonder. And it sparked that curiosity in me. That's what the track was about.
That's a great rabbit hole. Anyways, because up until I didn't think about it that way. I'm glad you brought it up. I didn't really picture Miles playing on the album. I just always pictured Rob in my head. But now that you've said it, now I can see.
Here's the deal. Is he the one that put the autograph, the stamp and seal approval on the Harmon Mute? And every time you hear a Harmon Mute through a trumpet, you just go, oh, that could be Miles? That's what hit me. Why did I hear a muted trumpet and go Miles Davis?
But if it would have been Miles playing, he'd have flubbed the first note. He'd have missed a slur on the third note. He'd have, come in late on the 10th note.
And he wouldn't have played long tones because they'd have been all over the spectrum.
So even though Rob's using the Harmon Mute, yeah, it's definitely. Yeah. But it's a good point because this album is from 2001, so it's 25 years old.
Yeah.
So when did Kind of Blue become that classic? How many decades did it take for Kind of Blue? And will we be talking about Chicago Underground Quartet, in the next 5 to 10 years, saying, "Oh yeah, this is golden jazz"?
I really like that point, Drew. That is outstanding to project this forward and thinking how and does this album fit in the next, like Matt said, 5 to 10 years. We're going to look back at this and say, wow, we listened to a piece of the history, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it goes back to last week's What's New Old Man? Joel Ross gospel album. Matt's talking about loving some vibes. Man, that album was shebanging.
Yeah.
I listened to it all again this week too. But will we look up and think that album we talked about in 2026 when it first came out, and if Kind of Blue took 30 years to absorb its greatness, we're talking about 1989 before it became a big hit. So are we just around the corner before Chicago Underground Quartet is that, oh yeah, they were really doing experimental jazz at the time?
Right.
A word came to me, it's got to percolate.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now I'm thirsty for coffee. Church coffee.
Healthy. It's healthy now.
So
I love the way that you thought about that, though. That's brilliant.
I'll go ahead and I'll spoil it now because I got to listen to Nate Chinnon talk to 3 of the members that were on Roy Hargrove's album, which supposedly dropped the 18th, but I can't order it anywhere. It's unavailable. LP, CD, it's gone. But Nate Chinnon did an interview about the Roy Hargrove album, Burn, which should have been out this week. He talked to Sherman Irby, who played the alto sax. He talked to Gerald Cannon, who was on the bass guitar, and Willie Jones III on drums. And listening to those 3 talk about Roy Hargrove, it hit me. Have I ever paid attention to who else played with Roy Hargrove? He is a legacy trumpeter, one of the young lions from the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s. I've never paid attention to the names on his albums. Not like I did as of this week. And it started with the Harmon Mute on this track. So my rabbit hole started, and I know it will continue. And that's, the interview was a good one to watch. Basically, Nate threw out a couple of questions, and those 3 guys just ran with it. They went down memory lane about the tours and playing with and what it was like to play with Roy Hargrove. So there's my shout out to the Roy Hargrove Burn album.
Well, it's not on iTunes either.
No, it's not on any of the social. It's a you got to buy it on a record. The LP was $48. or the wax is, and so CD's available $19 if you can find it in record stores.
Okay.
So it should have been already out there, but no, it's not on your social media channels, or I would have already gorged it like all day, every day. I'd have put the whole album on repeat to hear Roy play. But that's what I'm thinking about. So,
yeah.
With that being said, we're thinking about this. Let's keep the ball moving.
All right, let's go. Just as I have said,
and time out. Thank you, Matt. I hate doing a slideshow, even just 1 week of finding a quote, putting the information together. I don't know how you boil this down so beautifully to just bullet points.
Yeah.
My bullet points last week were like 12 pages long because I couldn't figure out the easiest way to say what needed to be said. So,
well, okay, you had a hard task with that album that you covered last week. So much great music and so many great artists on the album. Yeah, it would have been a daunting task.
So I'll let you proceed. Take it away from here, as Matt always says.
Whatever you do, do it to jazz. And you're going to hear in our week in music coming up in just a little while, that's pretty much what we do. Listen to jazz all week long and then come back and discuss an album or two with you guys. We are, again, using the list from Nate Chinnon's book called Playing Changes. That book is available at your local bookstore and Amazon.com. On this slide this evening, I also went ahead, and if you want to cheat and don't buy the book, you can still go find the list at playingchangesbook.com/essential albums. I would prefer that you go out and buy the book and read the book, as we three have. But if you're going to cheat, yeah, go to the website playingchangesbook.com and you can view the list. This week we are talking again the 2001 album from the Chicago Underground Quartet with a self-titled album. The brief bio to me, yes, it sometimes is very, very difficult. This week was very, very easy. The wiki page isn't loaded with a lot of information to boil down. The research that I did on the members, the Chicago Underground Quartet. But Rob started a workshop for avant-garde musicians in 1996. So this all just started as, hey, let's get together, let's workshop some ideas, play together some avant-garde music. And before you know it, in 97, the duo of Rob and Chad Taylor formed. They did a couple of albums as the duo, which I found interesting. A trumpet and some drums. That's the duet.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of electronics.
A lot of electronics.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what an interesting combo, right? Me and Delaney sitting around her studio, just fiddling around, and put some synth behind it, and you got a duet.
Run some pedals through your horn, and get all kinds of unique, crazy sounds. I watched a video of them doing a duet live on stage, and I thought, is that really a trumpet?
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Uh-huh.
It was.
Yeah. Well, kind of like Nels Petter Molvar. Yes. I mean, he's got synthesizer heavy, but the percussion and him and the keyboard players. So, but same concept anyway. Same concept as Nels. The Chicago Underground umbrella grew to the trio and to the quartet. Together under the umbrella, they do have 18 albums available. And this one is the self-titled quartet, this Chicago Underground Quartet album. Again, the label is from Thrill Jockey. The quote that I found this week, I don't know. I found it really interesting. I was reading on Rob and some of the interviews that he's done. So I was reading through some of those interviews, and I just pulled this quote out. I think of sound first. The impetus of that particular recording is to hit frequencies that have the capacity to really affect the listener, myself, and the group. And, based on our comments about the clips that we played, it goes along perfectly with the quote. He's thinking about the sound first and how it affects the listener and him and the rest of the group. We talked about not one member of the group is a superstar and has to rise above and play louder and longer and harder than everyone else. The awareness of the group is the main concept, the sound first. So, I love being able to fit in the quote with kind of our discussion, anyways, and how it goes along. But yeah, that's just a quote from Rob. And again, the reason I chose Rob is because in my mind, I picture him as almost the leader of the group. He's the one that founded the workshop in the first place, and so it just grew into. But yeah, I don't know. I love the quote. So I just want to say thank you for letting me provide that brief bio and the information about the Chicago Underground Quartet. You found us here on YouTube. If you don't like looking at our faces and you want to just hear our podcast, you can go to Amazon, iTunes, and Spotify and tell one of those assistants, hey, play me the Unconnoisseur podcast. We also have a radio channel, the WTUR.org, where we play 24-hour jazz music 7 days a week in your ear. I like Wednesdays the best because it's a free-for-all and you don't never know what you're going to hear coming up. The other days I do program some schedules and you get to hear trumpet music for a couple hours and piano music for a couple hours. But on Wednesdays, it's a free-for-all, baby. You don't know what's coming up. So I love Wednesdays on the radio channel. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you like the content that we're talking about so that you can come back and hear us again next week when we talk about the album next week. Hit that subscribe button and the bell button so that you get notified when our new episodes drop.
Ding. Matt, it was a real honor last week getting to read the thank you slide because I knew that you would do it. I knew that you always do it. So when I got to the WTUR.org, I'm super proud that you've put that together. And I'm super excited because when I'm at a loss for what to do, I can just go to the channel and turn something on.
Yeah.
It usually sparks my interest to jump back over to a different album because I'm like, oh, yeah, I need to listen. As I did this week with an album I'll tell you all about here in a moment.
Uh-huh. Yeah, even if it just jogs your memory on something that you want to come back to or an album that you want to listen to again, I do that a lot as well, except on Wednesdays. I tend to leave the channel on all day.
Stay there.
Yeah, pretty much.
So let's talk about this album. Your thoughts, your mindset on it. Chicago Underground Quartet.
Here's what I thought. The track titles seem to have a flow about them. We've had some albums that are random tracks and they have no cohesiveness, no flow to it. This album, it's like going from going to bed to trying to sleep to sleeping to dreaming, and the flow just seemed to be there. I have a question. I wonder what the dream that's reoccurring is. Okay. And part of the reason I asked that question is, I don't know, have either one of you had a reoccurring dream? Something that you've dreamt once and you have it again and you have it again? It's almost like when I was a kid, I had a fever or I got sick with the flu or whatever. I had a dream that I was walking across a railroad bridge over a river, the Maumee, in my neighborhood. And a train is coming. And I'm freaking out. And I can't jump because there's rails there. And I'm thinking, I'm just going to jump through the timbers and hang on. Fortunately, I wake up before that occurs. Mm-hmm. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, what is his reoccurring dream? I don't have it figured out, of course, but I wondered whether, okay, this is far out. Is this a drug-induced kind of a track, or is he has it fever? Is he sick at this point and he's just playing random music? I don't know. That makes no sense, does it? But
as a child, I had a fever.
That's Pink Floyd, yeah. Yeah.
My hands felt just like two balloons.
Balloons.
Sorry.
Okay, so
but I do wonder that, Dad. I really do, because you read through the album tracks, Total Recovery, just Tunnel Chrome, 4 in the Evening, Reoccurring Dream, Welcome.
Hold on, yeah. Because if you put the word sleep after each one of those, it could totally be a bedtime album.
Yeah.
Tunnel Chrome of Sleep, 4 in the Evening, Ready to Sleep, a reoccurring dream during sleep, Welcome to Sleep, 3 in the morning, not sleeping, Total Recovery, having slept. Yeah. It's funny. Now that you mentioned it, the way that I ingest music is I put my AirPods in, turn the music on, and then turn my phone over. I don't look at the song titles very often, except when I'm testing myself on, the top 100 or something, and you get those classics in your mind, and Boplicity and Witch Hunt and So What, you get those titles, but for these, it's funny that you even mentioned that, Dad. I'm glad that you did.
Yeah. Well, that's what I hang around for.
Well, who ist der Kuchen, mein Frau? That's song number 8. Who ist der Kuchen, mein Frau?
Yeah.
Hang on, I gotta hit pause. I'll be right back. Hang on. I gotta go dream. I had to call in the expert.
Wo ist der Küchen, meine Frau?
What's it mean?
I think it means like, where is the cake, my wife, or something. What?
Say it again.
Where is the cake, I think Frau means wife.
Yeah.
Also,
okay.
Did you
want to go check with Mom? You want to?
I'll check with my phone.
She's gonna check with her phone. Where's the cake, my wife? After a nap. After my night of sleeping.
On a clean plate.
Oh, please, yes.
Clean fork, please.
Oh boy, we really have gone off.
Dial up. Yeah, where is the cake, my wife? Thank you.
Really?
Where is the cake, my wife? After I slept.
That's hilarious.
That's what we go to school for.
Yeah.
So I had to do that. Sorry. Yes. Where were we at?
So that's my comment. What about either of you guys?
Now I'm going to have to listen to the album again and think about what are the answers to that question. It's more than just it's more than just a track on there. There is a lot to be said about them. I would say this: they flowed together a lot better than some of the other albums we've listened to from 2000. Everything has some cohesion, but the electronics keep throwing me for a loop. I'm not used to all of the sounds, and it's less of a jazz album to me and more of, what do you call it, electronic music. But it's not. It's got the soul of jazz. It's got the roots of jazz, but it's not quite jazz. And I think that I struggled with this, and I'm going to be wrestling with this for the 2000s on. What is jazz? Because if Dad and I talked about it a little bit last week, if it's the tree of jazz and the roots are Joe King Oliver and Pops, if Fletcher Henderson, if it's who was on the steamboat that Louis worked for, all of these names come in to the tree trunk of jazz, that 40s, 50s jazz. Wynton Marsalis talks about the straight jazz. Then it branches, that umbrella of jazz. This falls into it, but it's a tiny little branch that you don't want to put a lot of weight on. It will snap, but it is jazz. The album introducing a lot of electronics isn't new. You go back to the synth and the chord from the 60s, early 70s, Chick Corea stuff. All of a sudden, there's this whole explosion. This underground is now a noise-making machine. It's really not jazz. It's really not free jazz. It's really not avant-garde as much as experimental jazz or experimental noise. So, for me, personally, I love the album because it's a diversion from the straight jazz. But man, I long for straight jazz. After album of the year last year, you can't go wrong with it.
Last week.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I struggled with it, but I appreciated it for what it is.
I'm glad you said what you said because I wrestled with the same exact feelings. And we wrestled with it a few weeks ago with Nels Petter as well. Explain to me how this is jazz. Just because you call it jazz doesn't necessarily make it, in my mind, jazz. Experimental, yes. Avant-garde, maybe. Free jazz, no. I'm not getting any sort of free jazz here. There's too much cohesiveness in the tunes to be free jazz. I like you. I long for that straight jazz, but I like coloring outside the lines a little bit too. I didn't hate the album. Okay, let's put it this way. But the same question went through my mind. Where's the swing? Now, it meets the criteria for jazz. It meets our criteria: the craftsmanship, the awareness, the spirit of jazz is there for sure.
Created.
The creativity.
Definitely created.
Yep.
And it's I mean, I would assume that it's improvised. I don't think he's writing charts for this stuff, so it would all be improvised. So maybe that's where.
If he was, he's writing it in colors. Play this color, which I'll get to in a moment.
You're funny. But again, I was wrestling with it myself, and I thought, oh man, I'm the only one that's probably thinking this, but tell me where the jazz is. And
let me ask this question. Is there a sax on this album?
No.
So I wonder if there was a sax somewhere on a track. I think I'd feel better about it if I could hear a sax.
Yeah.
Playing some notes, baby.
All right, then. You've led it. It was a great pitch, but just like any good baseball player, I'm going to smack the home run. If you wanted saxophone on an album from the Chicago Underground, go listen to the Chicago Underground Quartet with Pharoah Sanders. Dang. It blew my mind. It doesn't mean it's any less experimental jazz, but it means that Pharoah had some free jazz come out and explode on top of this quartet. Pharoah Sanders. I'll put that album cover up. There's some live recordings of him going at it. There's a on stage where there's a vocalist that kind of Viking groans. Pharoah Sanders, saxophone with the Chicago Underground Quartet.
Wow.
I listened to it while I was driving through Georgia on my way home from vacation.
Did you get caught speeding? Because that was one of those albums that might have
I had the cruise control set, so I was going at 85 and I was comfortable, and I could really pay attention and focus on that album. I don't know. It's tough to focus. I love Pharoah. I mean, I will argue any day for Pharoah Sanders, but I still found it difficult to listen to.
Yeah. I want to read this quote from Mark Richardson at Pitchfork. He stated, "The Chicago Underground Quartet know how to integrate technology into their distinctive jazz sound. It's a fusion of some kind, so Winton would not approve. But I would call it a worthy extension of the tradition." And I gotta tell you, I almost picked that quote for my quote. I really did. That was right off of Wiki, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, I think you're right. It was off the Pitchfork website. Because when I was reading the quotes, I don't know. Is it though? Maybe it is on the wiki page.
I think it was Wiki under the Chicago Underground. So it's a far cry, but it is I think we're moving to that. I think these are the sounds moving forward. You either have the straight jazz or you don't. This is the underground, though. Just like you talked about loft music a couple of weeks ago, this is that fringe jazz music where it's now creating sounds. It's creating a different space where more people can be found in it. So I think as jazz culture, it's bringing people into it, and they're bringing their own melting pot. Going back to my original statement, how long before we find out who were the innovators of these decades?
Okay, let me ask you a question. Would you recommend this to a new jazz listener?
It's in my quill. I would have it in there depending on what type of music they are into.
Okay.
If they're into Jack Johnson, I've got a jazz album to pull them out. If they're into trance house music, I now have an album to pull them out. If they're into heavy electronic dance music, we now have albums to bring them out. So I guess, quill, I meant to say quiver. I've got the arrow in my quiver. I'm ready to fire off an arrow that says, yes, this is a jazz album for you.
Okay, so
Dad described last week's album as a quintessential real jazz album? No. I mean, it has Wynton Marsalis on it, so no. But there might be somebody who is into a style of music similar that might enjoy this crossover.
Okay. Dad, what about you? A first-time jazz, not necessarily a first-time, but a new jazz listener, someone who's only been in it for a couple of months.
Well, you'll realize I don't think deeply as your brother does, and my quiver is not as extensive. No, I would not recommend this as a jazz album.
Okay.
Hey, I want you to go listen to this new jazz, this jazz album. And they asked me, tell me where's the jazz in this? Tell me what jazz is. Well, okay, well then let me recommend something else to you.
Well, no, it would lead to a bigger discussion.
Yeah.
About the tree of jazz. You got the roots and the trunk, and this is, like Drew said, it's a small branch.
Yeah.
I get it. That's a great description of the umbrella of jazz, the canopy, as you would call it, a tree, right? What would you call the leaves? The canopy?
Canopy.
Of a tree.
Mm-hmm.
But at what point in time you just say, that's not even connected to the same tree? The branches have intertwined from a different tree.
We asked ourselves that question on Nels Petter as well. The only reason I keep bringing him up is because it's very similar. The electronic, the improvised trumpet solo, the percussion is very, very similar. That's the only reason I keep bringing him up, because we've covered some other straight jazz albums from Nate's list. I mean, Alas, No Access, not necessarily straight jazz, but we found a little more jazz in it than we're discussing tonight. Yeah. Ryan Blade Fellowship, you cannot deny that's jazz. Kurt Elling, you cannot deny that's jazz. Takuya and Hargrove, Clark Terry, those were all of our picks.
Yeah.
But we get back into the list, Danilo Perez and David Sanchez. I mean, David Sanchez is as straight ahead as you can get.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where I'm struggling this week, because last week was Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, who quintessential jazz album, and then you come into an album like this and you think, show me where the jazz is.
I feel like the old Wendy's commercial. Where's the beat?
Where's the
start
beat?
asking, where's the jazz?
Well, it makes me feel like a total unconnoisseur again. Help me figure out, I'm not an art critic, but a banana hanging on a white wall is not art to me. That's a banana hanging on a white wall. Whereas someone's going to say, "Oh yeah, that he was so depressed that day that he put the banana down and
he was on a slippery slope in his mental emotional state." So he threw the banana against the wall to see, should I slide or should I go?
So, and I hate feeling like an unconnoisseur because we've come so far. So
I would say that you're not going to recommend it to a new jazz listener.
I'm not going to. No.
Bless you.
Pardon me. I have a comment that I wrote down. The reviewers, and I read some reviews on this, are most often positive when they're talking about an album or a group, but I don't have the refined musical ears that some of these reviewers do. So it caused me to back away, or hesitate, saying, this is jazz. Because, like, I didn't think this was jazz. And it's experimental. And maybe jazz is, for this decade, is going to move into that. My hope is it doesn't stay there. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that.
I think it'll be interwoven, though.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think we're going to encounter more of this than we ever have, which is part of the joy we're experiencing new.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have appreciated this week more than most is listening to the trio, listening to the duo, listening to the quartet play with Pharoah Sanders. You start to collect the music, and to be a critic, you start to say, you know what, it was better than this album, but not as good as this album, or the duo hit really hard here, but not here. One of the things that I enjoyed about gathering it all is this is probably the more mellow of all of the albums from the duo, the trio, or the quartet. The other album, Good Day, was the other album from this quartet, and they pushed the boundaries a whole lot more. So I think this was kind of a sweet spot, just like David S. Ware. That album was a sweet spot, Surrendered. So I think that Nate did a bang-up job, and I really appreciated watching his interview and many other interviews, because he has paid close attention to everybody's albums coming out.
Is it a sweet spot because it's music for the listener, or is it a sweet spot because the listeners enjoyed it more than the previous album or the next album? Is that why it's a sweet spot? Because
it's a sweet spot because of approachability. I think the album's probably more approachable than Good Day was for me. But somebody who really loves this electronic mix may have loved Good Day more. I want to hear more horn.
Yes.
Just like, Dad, put a saxophone in it, and we'll wrap it up and say that it's closer to jazz. But a trumpet running through a synth, it's not uncommon, but it's uncommon the sounds that you got. Approachability.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready to rate? Should I go ahead with my rating?
I'll go ahead and tell y'all. I gave this album this week. Better make sure I read it. And I use the word approachability. I could do the loops. I feel like I could create music like this. It was fun and invigorating to me. I gave it an 8 because I just kept struggling with the where's the jazz part. I love it. I love the idea that we're moving into it, and I think that probably in a year I'll come back to it and go, oh yeah, I can't believe that I only rated it an 8. I don't think I bixed it, though. I just don't. The other is it resonates. There's so much that I resonate with the emotion of the songs. Just like Dad, I wake up at 3 in the morning and go, oh man, am I dreaming or am I awake? Should I stay or should I go now? All of these things I resonate with. The beginning, Tunnel Chrome, that song came on, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a good album. And it didn't stay in that chill. It moved to something different. So 8 was what I gave this.
I'm at a 6.5.
Okay.
And even after the discussion, I feel good about this rating. The emotion of it for me was not there. The spirit was not. The craftsmanship, yes. I go with the craftsmanship. Otherwise, I had a hard time feeling it and emoting with it, and except in a non-positive way. So 6.5 is where I landed.
Man, I wish we would have our Tuesday morning discussions again, so I could change my scores around before I actually quote them to you. But I hard coded this score in. Now, in my defense, I failed to download the album before I went on the cruise, so my listening was only Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So I only made it through the album 5 or 6 times. Okay, I did do Good Day. I liked self-titled better than I did Good Day. I did listen to the Pharoah Sanders album. That's not an excuse for my score, okay? Wrestling with the Where is the Jazz part, it got me. And I don't want to poo-poo anybody's artwork. That's not why we're here. The cover of the artwork didn't entice me to listen to the album again or more. I didn't want the album to end, but once it was done, I was ready to move on to something else. Let's put it that way. It was an amuse-bouche. It was a small bite. It was a good bite, but now that it's done, I'm glad it's over. I'm just being real critical here, but I could only go to a 6.
Okay. That's both of y'all surprised me a bit. I expected Dad's lower. Matt, I expected yours a little bit higher. That's kind of what I thought would come out of that. But either way, I think these are good, solid numbers. These will be that, Matt, your list has always been the same. Anything under 7 or 6.5, you go back to and just ask, what did I miss? Or do I want to listen again? Would you go back and listen to it again?
I hope, yes, I hope, like Dad said, in the next 6 months, or you said maybe, listen to it again and think, wow, I didn't fix it, but man, I messed up. This is actually an 8 for me, or a 9.5 for me. I just couldn't get there this week. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it.
We'll just shift the gears and get into our week, because I think it may have played a lot in what we rated this album as. Of course, I did this week's album. I did Good Day. But, Dad, I couldn't get my ears off of Joel Ross's gospel album. To listen to him play the vibes, killer. The trio, Flamethrower, Chicago Underground Trio, the Flamethrower album was super great. But I did the Roy Hargrove live at KNKX twice in preparation of the Burn album coming out, which I can't get my fingers on right now. And then after listening to Nate Chinnon talk about the new Roy Hargrove album with Sherman, Gerald, and Willie, you got to go back and listen to an album that Dad threw out last week, Roy Hargrove's Vibe. So all of that other music is in my ears, and you just get stuck in that jazz stream of things. So to me, that and
wait a minute, you talked about the Vibe last week? That's one of the albums that we covered while you were sick.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a banging album.
So when he said, I listened to the Vibe, I was like, wait, what? You did? I did too.
Oh.
So, banging.
Wait till you see the episode and the list of albums I listened to.
He went to the buffet, and he picked from everything.
Wow.
Man.
Wow. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Drew. But...
No, but the Vibe started that. And, of course, this week I've been finishing up the video projects. So all the high school senior projects, I've got most of them are uploaded. I'm waiting on some slideshows from a few of my students still. And, of course, parents are wanting to see the videos. And I'd like to remind them, as soon as your child will send me the slideshows, I can get these edited. So it's been a busy, crazy week and weekend anyways. And so when I get music, I got that music. But it was not really the Chicago Underground. I listened to it probably 4 or 5 times total, so I can't say that I didn't enjoy it. I really did enjoy the album, but there was so much other stuff going on. Matt, Dad, what about y'all's week?
I didn't have a lot of music in my ears this week. Not hardly at all. The 2 albums, the What's New album and the Underground album is what I really focus my attention on this week. So I don't have a whole lot to say. I can't tell you how many times I listened to the Underground just to get a feel for it. And it never came. And when we get into the What's New, I won't have a whole lot to say about it, but I listen to that much more frequently than I did the Underground. So there we go.
I like what you said. You just couldn't get into it. It didn't click.
Yeah.
I would have to say that. It did not click to me.
Yeah. Matthew.
Well, being on vacation is fun. I love being on vacation. I love relaxing. It's frustrating because, I love being disconnected, first of all, and I did not have cell service, didn't have Wi-Fi. We did not pay for Wi-Fi on the boat. And it's frustrating because I listen to music through my iTunes account, and unless I actually download the album to my phone, whatever I have downloaded is what I can listen to. Okay, I can't stream. I can add it to the library and stream it anytime I want to hear it. But if you don't have Wi-Fi, you can't stream it. So I made sure that I had some of my favorites to listen to. We're talking Courtney Pine, modern day jazz stories. We're talking Black Coats from the Underground. We're talking Kamasi Washington. We're talking Art Blakey, the album that you guys covered last week. I couldn't get enough of, sitting poolside now. Unfortunately, the boat is always playing music loudly so that, it's party atmosphere. A couple of times I found myself in the Serenity deck, sitting sunning on the Serenity deck with jazz in my ears. My happy place, I have two happy places when I either in pain or I'm depressed and I need to go somewhere. One of my happy places is with my feet in the ocean and the waves crashing up onto my knees and to my thighs. The sun is to my back, and that's my happy place. And you add jazz to that and I'm ecstatic. So I got to be in my happy place a couple of times this week. I didn't get the chance to get to the Chicago Underground Quartet until I got on the way home. Got my cell signal back, and Drew, you were kind enough to text me the album because otherwise, I wouldn't have had anything to say tonight. But again, it wasn't my cup of tea. I'm sure people will enjoy it, but I just couldn't get into it either. Other than that, my music was very. I had a lot of country music on the pool deck. I had a lot of the hip hop stuff on the pool deck. I will say one thing though. We were driving through the Dominican Republic on our way to an excursion, and I saw some sugarcane fields. And the first thing that came to my mind was Malaza from David Sanchez. So of course I got back to the boat and put Malaza in my ears. I don't know. I love that album. But so I had a lot of different music in my ears this week. Just being on vacation. I hate to say that I didn't focus on jazz because I really did focus almost every day on trying to listen to some jazz every day on vacation. But a lot of time in the car on the way there and on the way home listening to jazz. That's for sure. So
good.
It was a good week.
Good. Dad, an album that I listened to last week thinking it was this week's What's New. I have dug, so I need you to tell us, old man, what's new.
What's new?
All right. We're going to highlight the new album by Brian Landrus, Just When You Think You Knew It. And it was released March of this year. So it's basically brand new. There's 14 songs or 14 tracks on this album. And it is a long listen if you go from track to track. It's an hour and 20 minutes long. This is very smooth. How else would I describe it? It's soft. It's gentle. It's the kind of music that you can space out. You can be in a happy place and listen to it and be rejuvenated if you've had a tough week or a long drive, and you just want to sit back and be comforted. And that's what I find in this album. I I didn't go back and research it again, but it seemed like I read somewhere when I first opened this and found it that Brian plays several different saxophones on this album. Did you see that, Drew?
It looks like on the artwork cover he's holding a Barry sax.
He is.
Yes.
So
And I think it was track number 2 where the flute is being thrown down.
Yeah.
is he playing the Barry sax and the flute at the same time?
He's not rolling Kirk.
So I recommend this album, and yeah, he plays a multiple of instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's going to be a good one for y'all to tune into.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
there you have it.
And Matt, I had to fill in for you last week, and I said, Dad, one day you're going to have to divulge. I'm going to take over the reins and say that again tonight.
Uh-huh.
One day I'm going to need to know where these banging albums are coming from.
Can't do it.
Look, if you keep it a secret, well, what if you get hit by a bus tomorrow? We're not gonna know. We're not gonna know what music to pick for what's new.
Landing you at a funeral home. We'll never know.
By the way, the funeral business that took charge of the funeral today was from Barnes in Delta.
In Delta.
It was the Barnes funeral establishment that did the service.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I went up to young Mr. Barnes, and I told him how much I appreciated the way they took care of my dad.
Yeah.
And I didn't go into the story, but we have told cousin Larry about the story, and he didn't feel bad for me at all.
I don't think anybody should.
I don't think it should either.
Come on.
We did what we had to do to grieve.
Yes, of course.
That was a grieving second breakfast.
It was.
An hour after first and an hour before lunch.
Yes. Anyway.
Matt,
Yes.
what is going to be covered next week on the channel?
Okay. All right. Next week, we are continuing on with Nate Chinnon's list for the year 2001. And what he's got next on the list is John Hollenbeck, the Claudia Quintet. It includes John Hollenbeck. Well, it just says John Hollenbeck, the Claudia Quintet. It says it a couple of different times. The artwork for me on the album is kind of funny, is kind of plain, but the purple stands out. I had to go back to the website today to make sure I was downloading the correct album to listen to. But it's called the Claudia Quintet. It was released in 2001. It's got 10 songs and it's an hour and 7 minutes long. So it's a good listen, an hour to dedicate to listen to an album and then come back and hear us talk for an hour about it. Not too much out of your week, but yeah, put John Hollenbeck and the Claudia Quintet in your ear for discussion next week. Thank you so much for sticking around this long, and we really appreciate it. Hey, if we missed any facts that you'd like us to cover about anything, please leave us a comment below. I love getting and reading comments. I'll even respond to Ian and some of the other comments that we get.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. So until next week, enjoy John Hollenbeck, and of course, don't forget what's new with Brian Landris, Just When You Think You Know. All right.
All right.
Good.
Until then, boys, see ya.